Welcome back, everybody, to week 4 of Discovering Spring. We have a beautiful day today, Miss Kristen. Not too much sun lately, lots of rain, but April rain showers bring
May flowers.
So, well, we're not quite in May yet, but it's still April. It's beautiful today. Miss Kristen, what are we going to talk about today?
Today, you guys, we're going to talk about worms and a little bit of insects, which is such a fun lesson. So we're going to have a really fun day today, you guys, and enjoy this beautiful weather.
Yeah, so we're excited to explore with you guys again. So why don't we start? How do we start every class, Miss Kristen?
We start by reading a story, and we have a really, really good story today, you guys.
This is one of my favorite books. So everybody pay close attention, all right?
All right, guys, so the book today is called Bob and Otto, and it's a great book, and I'm excited to read it for you guys. Bob and Otto. Once there were two very good friends, Bob and Otto. So there we have Bob and Otto. It was spring and everything was lively and exciting. These two very good friends spent each day digging in the ground, playing in the grass, and eating the leaves that fell from the old tree. But one day, Bob looked up. Uh-oh, let's see what we think he's gonna see when he looks up. I need to climb this tree, he said. I want to see how the world looks from up there. Up there, said Otto, but it's so nice down here. When it's hot and dry, you can dig deep into the ground where it's cool and damp. And when it rains, you can come back up. Life is good just where we are. Why would you want to go up there? So he's getting a little curious. I think he wants to climb up, but Otto's just content where he is and going underground.
Do you guys think they're the same type of critter?
Can
anyone guess what we're looking at?
They look a little bit different, right? This looks pretty familiar. That pinkish brownish color looks a little bit like a worm, right? And Bob over here is looking, I don't know, not like a worm exactly. So let's see if we can figure it out. Because it's important, said Bob, and up the tree he went. So we know that caterpillars really like to go up the trees, right? So I'm thinking that Bob might be a caterpillar and Otto's disappearing under the ground. It's important down here too, said Otto, and down he went into the ground. So I'm thinking we have a caterpillar and a worm. Bob climbed, and he climbed, and he climbed, and he climbed until he was very high in the tree. Look, finally looks like he's starting to get to where the leaves are up top. Otto dug, and he dug, and he dug, and he dug, until he was very deep under the tree. So now they're separated, right? Bob went up, and Otto went down. These fresh green leaves are very tasty up here, thought Bob. So he ate, and he ate, and he ate, until he felt quite sleepy. Look, he's getting a little tired there. These old rotted leaves are very tasty down here, thought Otto. But still he dug, and he dug, and he dug, until he felt quite sleepy.
Where is he underground? What does that look like, you guys? Can you see? Looks like a little tunnel.
Yeah, a worm tunnel. So Bob slept, and he slept, oh boy, and he slept, and he slept for many days and nights. So it looks like Bob is kind of disappearing into, does anybody know what these are called? Let's see. But Otto still dug, and he dug, and he dug, and he dug, and dug some more. So now it looks like Bob has gone into a little cocoon or something, and Otto is still just digging and digging through his worm tunnel. When Bob woke up, he was so full of joy and he felt like flying. Oh my goodness, can anybody see what he turned into?
Wow, he's got wings.
He's got wings, right? He woke up and looks like he was a butterfly. So he flew over and under and around every branch of the tree. So he's so happy now that he's turned into a butterfly and he's flying around the same tree that he was just climbing up before. So that's pretty cool. Now back to Otto. Otto loved digging so much. He dug over, under, and around every root of the tree. So Otto's definitely not a butterfly, right? He's still just wiggling around down there under the ground. Soon Bob realized how much he missed his old friend and all of the fun that they used to have together. So down went Bob to find Otto. Oh boy. Soon Otto realized how much he missed his old friend and all of the fun that they used to have together. So up went Otto to find Bob. Oh boy, so we see Otto wiggling his way up to the ground and we have Bob flying down to the ground. So let's see if they meet. Aww. Here they are coming face to face. Hello, Bob. Hello, Otto. I like your wings. Thanks. So, you can fly? I sure can. Otto? Uh-oh. Why are you sad? So Bob's asking Otto why he's sad. Because, said Otto, if I had climbed up the old tree with you, when you asked me to, then maybe I would have grown big, beautiful wings like yours, and maybe I could fly. But I didn't. So he's envisioning maybe if he did climb up the tree as well, he would have also turned into a butterfly.
Do you guys think that's possible? Could a worm turn into a butterfly?
I don't think
No.
so. All I did was dig and dig and dig and dig and dig some more, but I'm still just a big fat worm. Aww. So Otto's feeling a little sad that he's not a butterfly. No, you're not, said Bob. While you were digging, all I did was eat. While you were digging, all I did was sleep, right in his cocoon. While you were digging, all I did was fly around. So Otto was doing lots of work digging down there. But while you were digging, you loosened the soil so the roots could drink water, so the tree could grow tall, so the leaves would be green, and so I could eat the leaves. Right? So he was really helping out the earth when he was down underground loosening up all the soil. That's really important. And grow wings. I owe it all to you, Otto, said Bob. You're not just a worm, you're my best friend. And friends are important. So they really needed each other, right? That's an awesome story. And so on our walk today, we're gonna see if we can find some worms and maybe some real life Bobs and Ottos, all right? So let's get started.
All right, you guys, so we are ready to go on our exploration. Definitely think we'll find some worms again. A couple weeks ago, we found some worms, so we should be able to find worms. Still, Miss Krista, it's been a little colder this last week or so. We're now in, what is it, April 25th today. It's warm and nice today, but prior to that, it has been pretty cold. So the ground is still cold, but we'll find some worms. So remember, everybody, as we've discussed every week, we're gonna stop at our water can, and we're gonna make sure that our hands are clean of any of the soaps or
Especially if we're
chemicals.
gonna be trying to find worms and holding worms, right? We wanna make sure our hands are clean.
And parents, just remember when you guys are all done washing your hands to turn off
Yes.
our faucet, okay? So we don't run out of water. All right, so here we go. We'll touch the rock to start with. I'm excited.
What do you guys think
Ready
the
to
rock
go?
is going to feel like today? The rock. It's a little sunnier today, but like Mr. Tom said, it's still been a little chilly out, so let's check it out. If you guys remember a couple weeks ago, the rock there was water all around it, so I think that's dried up.
How are you today, Miss Erin?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Nice.
Miss Erin, as always on video. All right, so this week, like last week, there's no water by
Yeah.
a rock. So Miss Kristen, would you like to touch the rock this week?
It's still kind of cold to the touch, but I have to say it feels a lot warmer. And
Let me
see, the sun is hitting it right here, so it is a little bit warmer, but still, I wouldn't say warm.
Yeah, I think it's warmer.
It's warmer, but still a little chilly. But that's to be expected, I guess.
Okay, you guys, so we're going to talk a lot about worms today. We're going to definitely look for worms, why they're so important. We'll talk more about that as we go along.
And if we look down, we can see that it's pretty muddy already. So I think that means that we had rain recently. And I don't know if you guys know, but worms love the rain. So hopefully we'll be able to find some for you guys.
So, Miss Kristen, I have a question.
Yeah.
How could you tell the difference between Bob and Otto? Otto was the worm, and Bob was the caterpillar. What's an easy way to tell the difference between a worm and a caterpillar?
Yeah, sure. So, as you guys may or may not know, worms actually don't have any little legs. So it would have been really hard for Otto to have climbed up the tree with Bob, right? Because he didn't have any legs to climb up the tree. So that's really the main difference, is that worms don't have any legs and caterpillars do. So, do you guys know how many legs that caterpillars have? Miss Erin, do you know?
I might know.
Mr. Tom, do you know?
Well, it really does depend on the type of caterpillar.
That's right.
But there is a general number
Yeah.
of, should we say it?
1, 2, 3. 16.
16 legs. But if we see one today, later in the spring classes, we will find caterpillars. It still may be a little too chilly, but we will find them later on. 16 legs. So now I have a tricky question for Miss Kristen.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. And we're gonna make sure that this is a little tricky, but is a caterpillar an insect?
A caterpillar is an insect.
Okay, so insects only have 6 legs, right? Did you guys know that? 6 legs. If you find an insect, that's how you know. Spiders have 8. We already talked about caterpillars have 16 legs. So if a caterpillar has 16 legs and it's an insect, but we said insects only have 6 legs, how could it be an insect? I'm asking Miss Kristen.
Let's see. I do not know.
Well, what happened when Bob went up into the tree? What did he turn into?
So when he went up to the tree, I remember he went into a cocoon, and then after the cocoon, when he woke up, he was a butterfly.
He was a butterfly. So, is a butterfly an insect?
Yes.
Yes, a butterfly is an insect. So that's why we consider caterpillars insects. Okay, you guys?
That's a tricky question. I'm sure I didn't know that. Maybe some other people didn't know that either.
So some of the other critters that we may see today, or may not, we definitely saw some slugs last week. Miss Kristen found a snail. That was really cool. We saw a couple of little tiny millipedes. How can we tell the difference between a millipede, Miss Kristen?
So we talked about the difference between a worm and a caterpillar, right? That worms don't have any legs and caterpillars do. But it's interesting interesting to think about what the difference between a centipede and a caterpillar is, right? That's not as easy because they both have legs, right? So, to tell the difference between a caterpillar and a a caterpillar and a millipede or a centipede is the amount of legs that they have. So centipedes and millipedes have a lot more legs than caterpillars do. Like lots and lots of legs. And so millipedes have more legs than centipedes, and centipedes have more legs than caterpillars. So it really just comes down to how many different legs that they have. So centipedes have one set of leg per segment of their body, and millipedes have two sets of legs per part of their body. So again, millipedes have the most legs, centipedes have a little bit less, caterpillars have a little bit less, and worms have no legs. Okay?
And we'll talk about how worms move around, right? Because if they have no legs, they still have to move around. And maybe we'll find a worm and be able to see that. So, okay guys, so we're almost where we want to start looking for worms. I brought this bottle of water not because we're thirsty, but we brought this just in case we want to pretend that it's raining out, because like Miss Kristen said, wormies love the rain. So if we're having a little trouble finding some worms, we're going to make it rain. And we also will stomp a little bit on the ground. We'll explain why we do that later.
Yeah.
So we've got our rain, and now I think when you're getting close to the spot, and we just walked straight down Froggy Freeway. We're going to go just past Memory Lane, the second Memory Lane. Stay on Froggy Freeway, and we're just going to each find a spot. We both have a stick. Have your kids pick up a stick.
Yep, so the stick is for digging a little bit, because like we saw in the story, the worms like to stay under the soil in little worm tunnels. So this is helpful just to dig a little bit if we can't find them right away.
And then just be super careful that you make sure if you find a stick off the trail that you're looking really carefully that we don't see any poison ivy.
Right.
Again, it's still a little early for poison ivy for us. Probably another couple of weeks or so, and it'll be popping up. We do try to pull it in this general area, so hopefully, maybe last year we did such a good job we won't see as much this year, but chances are there'll be some coming soon. So now we can start to maybe find a spot here. Maybe Miss Kristen can find a spot on that side. I'll find a spot on this side. We can use our sticks. We can also use our hands. Now let's just see if we find anything.
Don't be afraid to get a little bit dirty with this, you guys.
That's the fun part, right?
Yeah. All right, let's see.
So now, Miss Kristen, where was Otto a lot of the time in the story? When he wasn't talking to Bob, where did he go?
So he went under the ground, right into those little worm tunnels. And here, I've already actually found a little baby one.
All right. Erin, can we get over to see that?
This is kind of a cute one, and I'm going to put a little bit of dirt in my hand too, just so he feels comfortable. So this is just a little worm. Okay. I'm sure we'll be able to find.
Now, can we see him moving at all, or is he?
Yeah,
not?
he's moving. And so if you guys, we can try to guess which side of him is the front and which side is the back. So Mr. Tom, you want to take a guess?
Let's see.
And then we'll test it out.
Okay, so usually you guys, when we walk, well, no. Let's start over. With wormies, they will walk in the direction where their head is. So if their head must be here, I think.
Right, so let's see when we put him back down where we got him. Let's see. Oh, yep, see, so he's trying to dig under the ground with the same side that Mr. Tom had guessed. So that's how you can tell which is the front and which is the back of the worm.
Can you pick him up again, Miss Kristen?
Yep.
So I have a question for you guys. When you find your wormies, what do you think it'll feel like? Do you think it'll feel warm and dry? Or do you think it might feel...
It's definitely not warm and dry. You can see probably even from your screen that he's a little shiny, right? So he's pretty moist. Which I think he needs to keep, right? And that's actually why we don't want to hold worms in our hands for too long, because sometimes it can dry them out, and worms really like to they need to stay wet and moist.
All right, so now, Aaron, can you see, I think I can see what's making this worm move. I don't know if I'm right about that, but Aaron, are you able to pick that up? What are those little tiny, they almost look like little hairs on the worm. What is that, Miss Kristen?
So those are kind of like little thistles, kind of, and it really helps the worm move. So it clings to the surroundings of the worm, so whether that be my hand or the dirt or leaves, and it helps them kind of push themselves forward, because like we said, they don't have arms. Like, we can push ourselves forward, our feet walk for us, but they need these little kind of like little tiny hairs on the outside to help them move through.
So those are bristles.
Bristles, yep.
Aaron, is that, I don't know if that's visible.
It's not
From,
really.
yeah, it's hard to see. So when you guys come
And we'll
out
also
here,
try to get a bigger worm
really
too.
close, and then Miss Kristen and I will discuss, maybe for this class when you come out, we'll leave a magnifying glass for you, and that might help you see those a little better. All right, cool. So that's our first wormy.
Here, you guys, can anybody take a guess what this is? He's moving fast. So this is actually a millipede. He has, of course, we can't count all his little legs, but that's a millipede, and
That's
he's...
a little millipede. That's generally, you guys, what we'll find under our
moving pretty
logs
fast.
around here. But we do have some ginormous millipedes. Generally, later in the spring, if you walk to, and we're going to be doing this in a week or two, Miss Kristen, when we walk to the bridge, and there's some logs under there, over the past few years, we've definitely found some really big millipedes, which is pretty cool. So we'll be looking for those as we keep going. But yeah, so is a millipede an insect, you guys? How many legs does an insect need to have to be an insect? 6. Okay, so did a millipede have 6 legs?
Sir, definitely not.
No, a lot more than that. All right, so we are still looking, because the ground is so cold. Miss Kristen and I are still kind of struggling to find a worm. So maybe, Miss Kristen, what we should try to do now is make it rain a little bit.
Yeah.
And maybe that will, although the ground is pretty wet, it's really not dry. It's just that it's so cold.
Yeah.
But
And Mr. Tom also said before that we'd stomp a little. So can anybody think of why doing some stomping like this would help the worms maybe come to the surface? So maybe when we stomp like this, it kind of vibrates or shakes the ground a little bit, which really kind of makes the worms think, what's going on here? So then they kind of start moving around a little bit more. Maybe the vibrations wake them up, or they start crawling up to the surface a little bit.
yeah, and can you think of an animal that lives underground a lot of the time? It's a little bit like the size of a chipmunk, but it's different. And I think the wormies might be afraid that it's a mole coming to get them. So they actually come to the surface.
So Mr. Tom talked about that maybe the moles that also live underground sometimes, maybe the worms would be afraid of the moles. So what else do you think would be something that the worms would be afraid of? Or what other animals would be interested in trying to eat a worm?
Tweet, tweet, tweet.
Well, there's a good hint. So definitely birds, right? And we talked about that a couple weeks ago, that birds love to eat worms, moles do, maybe some snakes or other animals. I'm trying to think of. Ooh, maybe owls?
How about something that is sometimes lives in the water, sometimes lives on land, and jumps around a lot?
Ooh, probably frogs.
Froggies, yep.
Yeah. And maybe even little land animals too. Like I know foxes like to eat worms, so there's a lot of, so maybe that's why the worms are hiding too. It's cold and maybe they're afraid of us.
All right, so, but we know they're busy, right? Because when in a lot of the story that Miss Kristen read, Otto was where? He was down below, down in the ground. And what was he doing? Was he just sleeping down there, or was he doing something really important?
Well, he was digging and digging and digging. And like it talked about briefly at the end, is that all of that digging was actually really important because he was loosening the soil so that the trees could grow, so that the roots could grow underneath the ground and everything can bloom, right? So Bob would not have been able to eat those leaves he was eating in the trees if it weren't for Otto under the ground loosening the soil.
Yeah, so when wormies loosen the soil, air can get in, down below. What else? What are we going to do now? What are we going to make happen now, Miss Kristen? Watch out.
Yep.
What else can get into those holes? The
Water and rain,
yeah.
right? So that everything can grow. Now
And so,
we'll do some stomping.
and so that's really nice for the plants that they can grow for Bob and caterpillars. But why do we care? Why do people care about plants? What's so important about plants? Not just plants, small plants, but trees. Why do we need trees, and why do humans need them? Wait, see a little beetle.
I know.
He's not in our class today, so we'll leave him alone. Why do we need these trees and plants, you guys? What's so important? What do we need to do all the time?
Breathe.
We need to breathe, and they make oxygen, the trees and the plants. So worms make sure that the plants and the trees are big and strong. We couldn't even breathe without worms. So worms are so important, you guys. Too bad we can't find any. Here, do you want to use that stick? Miss Kristen, should I help? We're kind of within 6 feet now. But
And another reason why worms are really important is that they actually help make the soil. So if you guys can see how kind of crumbly and moist this soil is and kind of clumpy and stuff, that's actually largely because of the worms. So worms actually kind of poop out dirt, which we really need. So they kind of create this soil that is really nutrient rich, and that's really great for the plants and the trees to grow. So worms are so cool and so important.
yeah, and they'll eat things like these dead leaves. They're dead, they seem dead, but there's really still a lot of organisms on them. A lot of, that's just a big fancy word. There's really important nutrients. And wormies will eat, Aaron, maybe you can get some pictures like Miss Kristen showed a few weeks ago with the holes in the leaves. Those could be wormies eating them. And it could have been from a caterpillar, right? From before it fell to the ground. But on the ground, these wormies, they'll eat all of this decaying matter. And like Miss Kristen said, they'll eat the dirt and they'll churn it all up inside of them and poop it back out. And your parents would know this if they garden. It's like fertilizer. It's really, really important for the ground
Yep.
and
So
for our
here's-
plants.
I found another worm.
Hooray.
He's still a little small, but he's a little bigger than our first worm. So let's see. Trying to clear the dirt around. Okay. There
So
he's
now-
wiggling and
Miss
wiggling.
Kristen, I have a question. Do worms have noses to breathe through like we do, to breathe in all of that oxygen that they help us breathe?
Well, that's another fun fact about worms. So worms don't have mouths and they don't have noses, so they breathe very differently than we breathe, right? So if they don't have a nose and they don't have a mouth, they have to breathe through a different way. So they actually breathe through their skin, which is a really cool thing that they're able to do. And so different than us, of course, is being able to breathe through their skin. So worms have really so many fun facts about them.
Oh, and here's a little guy.
So Mr. Tom talked about how they eat the leaves, and if we remember in the story how Otto was under the ground eating kind of the brown, kind of mucky leaves, and Bob was in the tree eating the fresh, crisp leaves up there.
Just another little one. And let's see, let's watch him now, and you guys can see which direction he's going. We'll tell you where his head is. He's not going very far. And he's probably thinking, why am I on this hand right now? And do you guys think that he has eyes to see where he is or not? Actually not. So about the only thing that worms know is when it's light and when it's dark. So they know when they're above ground and they know when they're below ground. And you can kind of see him working his way through that leaf, which is, it's almost like he's trying to eat it. Doesn't it seem that way?
Here's another worm and a little...
Look, he's going right through it almost. He's going to be chomping on that leaf when we put him back.
Here's another worm and then a little teeny rolled up millipede also on my fingernail.
Oh, wow. Okay, so Miss Kristen's wormy is definitely moving a little faster than mine. Oh, he's on the move.
So I found this little guy under one of the logs.
And
Which
because it's
worms
so
love to
chilly
hide.
and the ground is colder, you guys, we are going to find more wormies under logs, under rocks. When you guys come out here, it'll be warmer. And so I think it'll be a lot easier to find the worms.
Mm-hmm.
Should we keep going just a little bit further and then we'll turn around before we do our craft?
And you guys, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, how sometimes you hear that if worms kind of get cut in two or cut in half, that they just grow right back together. And that's something we really don't want to experiment with. So worms really are our friends, right? We don't want to be afraid of them, and we don't want to also be harmful or hurt them. We also don't want to take the worms home. So worms really are our friends, as we discussed how important they really are. So we want to be very careful with them.
You know, it's hard to believe, you guys, but in an acre of land, and I would say so far we've walked about an acre since we started the class, there were probably 1 million worms underground. It's just that they're staying underground because it's cold. But isn't that incredible? There's like 1 million worms probably under here. Anyone know how many, this is a tough question, Miss Kristen. How many wormies does a bird need to eat in a day, like a robin? That's a tricky question.
Ooh, I actually do not know that answer.
They need to eat 28 worms
Wow, that's
each day. So, Miss Kristen, if you and I were robins, we would be very hungry right now.
pretty
Because
much.
we really have not found that many worms so far. So maybe that, I do know we have a lot of robins that live around here, especially right around here. So they've probably been through here and they've eaten a lot of our worms this morning. All right, you guys, so take a look at this wormy. He's a little fatter at least. And does he look dry or wet to you? He looks pretty moist,
yeah.
right? You can see in the sun, he's kind of glistening. And then Aaron, maybe we can see those bristles that we were talking about earlier. Hard to see them. Miss Kristen and I will talk about leaving you guys a magnifying glass. That might help you see those bristles a little closer. Which direction is he going?
Ooh, looks like that's his head.
That must be his head, yeah?
So if Mr. Tom were to put him down in the dirt, that's probably, he would disappear from this end. He would dig under the ground with that side of him.
So remember, you guys, they dig tunnels, they help create holes in the ground to let air and water get down to help feed the plants. They then feed the plants with their Well, you can see, like, he's got some dirt attached to him. See that, you guys?
Yeah.
And it's like a fertilizer. Farmers love worms, and so do gardeners.
That's right. All right. So we're going to start walking back this way on Froggy Freeway. So we hope that when you guys come and do this class also that you'll be able to really get your hands a little dirty and find a cool stick and dig and hopefully find some cool worms as well.
And if you guys remember that tree that had fallen down a few weeks ago that we talked about that we had to climb over, well, good news. Mr. Bob is actually clearing that tree for us now, so when you come out here, that won't be in your way, which is really cool. All right, so now on the way back, we talked a lot about worms, right, Miss Kristen?
Yeah.
So where would we find, we talked a lot about Otto and worms, where would we find Bob and his friends, the caterpillars? Would we look on the ground for them?
Well, so if we remember from the story, you guys, Bob was pretty much, he went up, right? He went up the trees and around, and he was crawling and climbing all over the place. So, because like we talked about, caterpillars have legs, so they can do that. So we would definitely want to look probably on tree trunks or up the sides of trees or branches for caterpillars.
Or on leaves
And
themselves,
yeah, and I
right?
was just gonna say, and remember from the story what caterpillars like to eat, right? They like to eat leaves. And we know that Bob was pretty hungry, right? So there's a good chance we find them on leaves as well.
But are we seeing a lot of leaves right now in mid-late April?
We definitely aren't, but maybe by the time you guys come, maybe there'll be some more leaves.
So here are some leaves. Why don't we take a look, Aaron, and see if we see any evidence of caterpillars here? I don't see any.
However, how about down there?
Down there, that could be. What do we see down here? Someone's been munching on that.
Somebody's been munching.
All right, so we don't see a lot of leaves yet because it's just still a little earlier in spring. And that's one of the cool things about spring, though, you guys, is everything changes from week to week. I think it's a little different than it was a few weeks ago out here, don't you, Miss Kristen?
Yep, so you guys can really kind of have a hunt of your own when you come here to look under the ground and under logs for the worms and up in the trees for the caterpillars.
And remember, you guys, what do caterpillars turn into?
Oh yeah, they turn into butterflies. So you can also keep your eyes out for butterflies, but that again is a little bit later in the spring and into summer.
And we'll point them out in later weeks, probably before you even come out here. But definitely around where we were walking, we will see some evidence of caterpillars. We'll probably see some in about a few weeks. Still a little cold, still a little early,
Yeah.
but they'll definitely be out here, and we'll point them out when we see them so you'll know what to look for. Okay.
Alrighty, you guys, so we had a great walk, and I'm really happy that we were able to find some worms. And
Didn't find a lot, Miss Kristen, but that's
We
because
found
it's
some.
cold.
we probably found, what, 6?
We found about 6 or 7. You guys, when you come out,
See if you can find more than us.
yeah, and let us know. Miss Kristen is going to be emailing everyone about classes. Let her know, or let us know how many worms you find in this class, okay?
And now we have a really exciting craft, so let's go check that out, all right, guys?
Sounds good.
Alrighty, you guys, so I'm here at the craft table, and we have a really cool craft. So as you can see, here we have a caterpillar, and if you open it up, it's a butterfly. So it's kind of like a butterfly caterpillar craft in one. So we're gonna try our hand at making this pretty cool craft. So the first thing we're gonna do is draw this beautiful butterfly on the inside, okay? So, you
And
know,
so, Miss Kristen, when they pick up their craft,
yes.
they'll pick up the craft sticks. We'll have it taped together. There'll be 8 of them taped together. And
Yep,
then
so it'll look just like this, what you get.
we'll
at
have
the end.
pom-poms for you. And I think that's about it, right? We'll also have the antenna.
Yep. So I'm gonna go ahead and start drawing my butterfly.
This is pressure I could not handle right now, drawing a butterfly live on video.
Yep. Pressure is on. Well, let's see. But remember, every butterfly looks a little bit different, right? Kind of just like every butterfly is unique. So you can really kind of let your imagination go on this one. Pick what
and
color.
You have. I can see already. You've let it really go.
Yep. I'm starting with pink, and we'll see how my butterfly
Well, that would be pretty.
evolves.
And so for those of you, Miss Kristen is making her butterfly, drawing her butterfly. For you, those of you who have not been here before, we do have a butterfly garden right next to the classroom area where Miss Kristen is reading the story and doing the craft. And right now, because it's early in the spring, we don't see a lot growing. But when you come out here in May and definitely in June, there'll be a lot of plants growing in there. So definitely take a look on your trip out here before you take your walk. Oh, that's starting to look nice.
Yes. Here's my butterfly so far, halfway colored. I could be really crazy and do the color the other half a different color, but I'm kind of liking this pink and blue.
And so again, are butterflies insects?
Yes.
Yes, they are. So that's why caterpillars are insects. Even though they don't have 6 legs, butterflies do. So we consider caterpillars insects as well because they turn into butterflies.
They're butterflies in the making. And our craft will show that. All right, maybe I'll throw on, actually I like it just like this. So there's my butterfly. It's not really as pretty as this one, but I like it.
And now show them how this folds up.
Yeah, so it folds up kind of like accordion style, you guys. So just like that. So it's kind of easy. I know it might look a little complicated, but it kind of is also how the popsicle sticks kind of fold naturally. So just like accordion style, okay? Okay, so now what we're gonna do, just like our example has, we're gonna flip the butterfly over like that and then make the far either side really into our caterpillar, okay? So we want the butterfly to be facing the table, and then you can pick either the furthest left popsicle stick or the furthest right popsicle stick. And then we're going to glue on I have 6, but if you guys wanna, yeah, 6 fits pretty perfectly. So we're gonna put some glue down all along this popsicle stick. Like
you
I
might
said,
want to
either
fold it before you do it, or you might not. It doesn't matter either way.
So we're just
I fold it.
really, I think it's kind of easy flat though.
Okay.
We're just gonna do one thin line, okay? Just like that.
Tacky glue.
So you can see I just did one straight line of glue. And then you can kind of arrange the colors of the pom-poms that you like. You want to press them down pretty firmly. And then once you put your pom-pom balls down, you don't want to play with it too much because it kind of has to dry a little bit. Okay, so I have all 6 of my little pom-pom balls down, and then we have this little piece of antenna. So we're actually going to cut it in half.
Miss Kristen, do you have your eyes?
No, I don't. I was just going to ask you for those.
Ah.
Okay, so now we have our 2 little antennas.
I'll leave the bag for you.
And we're just going to do a drop of glue right on the top pom-pom ball. So if you can see, there's just 1 drop of glue. And we're gonna fold the little antennas at the top just to make it look like a real antenna. And we're gonna put the other end just like that. Okay, and we're gonna let that dry for a second. And now they need eyes, right?
No, because caterpillars do have eyes. We did discuss whether worms have eyes or not, right?
And worms don't. So again, that's another one of the differences between caterpillars and worms. Okay, so you guys, we have our two googly eyes, and we're going to put just one really small dot of glue on the back of each one. You really don't need much glue here. Okay, there's one. And then our other. So we're gonna put it, of course, on the same pom-pom ball that has our antenna as carefully as we can.
Very nice.
Okay, so it's still drying a little bit, but I think I'll be able to show you guys. Alrighty, so you guys, and this is our final product. So of course you open it and there's the butterfly, and then you fold it up and there is the caterpillar. So, and I would, you guys, when you do this craft, before you do the pasting of the pom-pom balls, fold it up first, like so, and so they're stacked like this, because like Mr. Tom had suggested, it is a bit easier to kind of glue it when it's already like this as well. And so we make sure then the caterpillar is on the right side. So again, so there is our butterfly.
What's your butterfly's name?
Ooh, let's see. I would say maybe Bob Jr.
Bob Jr. That is, again, one of my favorite books, you guys, and Miss Kristen read it so well. I hope you enjoyed that story. I hope you enjoy learning about worms today,
Yeah.
caterpillars, and what else did we see? We saw just a millipede, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's how it goes in science. Sometimes you see more stuff than others, but we definitely saw 6 worms. Let's see how many you can find when you come out here.
Yeah.
We hope you have a great week, and we will see you next week.
Next week for week 5. All right, you guys, have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.